I call the honourable member Lewissa Wall.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. It is my pleasure to take a first call in this Part 1 committee stage of the Prohibition of Gang Insignia in Government Premises Bill. It's a members' bill and my contribution to the discussion will very much be about looking at what this piece of legislation is trying to achieve, which is to prohibit gang insignia on premises, so departments of public service, the police, Crown entities, local authorities, and through the select committee process, they added schools because they deemed schools to be part of the state service or the state sector. In responding to the previous speaker, I would like to talk about what he talked about, which was about eradicating gangs, which isn't a purpose of this bill, in fact. Nowhere in this bill do we talk about eradicating gangs or why gangs were created in the first place. And he made a very good point. He made a very good point about why people end up choosing to be in gangs. People choose to be in gangs, and talking to people like Kim Workman, who has worked in this area for a long time, because they are isolated, they have been, for want of a better word, dislocated from their families, dislocated from their communities. So whether we like it or not, gangs have served to fill a collective identity that some people, yes, take pride in. I and we on this side of the House are very aware of what gangs do. We do not support the activities of gangs, absolutely not. No, I don't actually, but I have a bit of recognition about why they exist in the first place. So if we're going to analyse how they were created, you know, that's one thing. But if you were really interested in the issues about gangs, then why isn't a purpose in 3 of this section about eradicating gangs and actually addressing some of the fundamental issues about people who end up in gangs because they come from abusive backgrounds? Why aren't we talking about staircasing people from prison into vocations, into housing, into a better and more productive lifestyle? And that's got nothing to do with this piece of legislation. All you want to do, and this piece of legislation wants to do, sorry Mr Chair, is to say if you're wearing an insignia, then we're going to fine you $2,000. What a wonderful solution that is. And how many of those people do we think will actually pay $2,000? It's actually, when you look at the whole bill, it's not very big at all. That's it. So someone with an insignia who's in these public places is going to be fined. Big deal. What does that mean then in terms of trying to assist people who find themselves in circumstances, as I've just said, where gang affiliation has become a normal way of life for them? So the other point I wanted to make clear in my contribution was the commentary that we made on this particular piece of legislation is very clear that government already has the tools to address it. My colleague Andrew Little made that clear by showing you, even today in the Herald, a sign that courts can put up that prohibits the wearing of gang insignia. And what we were really clear is that under the Summary Offences Act of 1981, Section 3, it makes threatening behaviour an imprisonable offence. Section 4 makes offensive behaviour a criminal offence. Section 21, that people cannot intimidate anybody. So we do have tools within the current legislation to deal with this issue, and I think that's our major reason for opposing this piece of legislation, because it's not needed. So if the member and the chair wants to get up and talk about the rationale for this bill, where did it come from? Who asked for it? Why have we got this piece of legislation before the House? Because surely there is some evidence about the need for it. The only evidence that I've heard from my colleague Moana Maki in reference to some of the conversations in Whanganui is now there's a whole lot of gangs that want to be added to the list that's in this bill. And I mean, yeah, because it's cool for gangs to be listed in a piece of legislation. Well, if that's one of the outcomes of this, then actually that's pathetic. That's a pathetic rationale for this bill, so that we can have gangs who want to add their names to this piece of legislation. And obviously that's part 2 of the bill, where there are going to be certain powers that the... Thank you.
Mr Chair.
I call the honourable member.
Thank you, Mr